Yeah.
Sign up sheet.
So Jessica, we used that so that it was easy for the secretary to collect everyone's names, but since I
Somebody.
Well, welcome, everybody. I think we have
No bad.
everyone here. Hi, Rebecca.
And so the funnies only go down about 6 feet.
Ezekiel.
I mean. No point, they have to go down 1,000.
I'm gonna just give you a quick view of the room, but we don't have a camera in here, so you can see everyone that's here.
Well, it's remarkable. We used to have some.
Don't want you to go too much down there.
No.
All right, if you are, on
Yeah,
Zoom, maybe you could put your name in the chat, that would be great. And,
Yeah,
I
I
am
think this
hoping
side
that
is all
you
cities.
have your copy of the agenda. Does anyone need that
Yeah.
in the chat?
Mhm.
I sent it out,
And the railroad.
We're having a meeting.
No.
I sent it out last week and just let me know if you need that. So could I get an approval of the proposed agenda from someone? All right, thank you. And how about approval of the January 2024? Okay, the minutes have been approved. Can everyone on Zoom hear me? Okay. Great. I'm going to do one more test. Scott, can you say something from the back of the room?
Something from the back of the room.
Did you hear Scott okay? Oh, all right. What comes up? That's great. Okay, the first order of business is to affirm Jessica Keller as our new recording secretary. Welcome, Jessica. Do we need to do anything official there, Steve DeForest? Do I need to do anything official to add Jessica to our, or that was it? Okay.
We should probably applaud Jessica.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then, oh, I need to have some special language, which I will send to you, Jessica. But basically, we have to include a note to the effect that we are all approving to add Ezekiel Duran to our Washington Federal bank account, because we have a CD there, and they won't probably let him sign the card unless we have minutes that actually specifically say that. So I will send you the official language separately that needs to go in the minutes, but if you could just make a placeholder for that.
Well, let me move that we add him as a signatory to that account.
Yeah, I think you could say that. Go ahead and say that.
Second, okay, second.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, the motion has been approved to add Ezekiel. Thank you.
Yeah, they wanted a piece of paper.
Okay. And looks like Anthony is coming. Okay, I think Rebecca, you have the floor. Let's see if we can hear you.
Hello, can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah.
For those of you who are not currently looking at the screen, my cat Mischief may make an appearance, so just fair warning, she takes any Zoom as an opportunity to shine. So thank you all so much for hosting. I am Councilmember Bob Kettles, his District Director of Constituent Affairs. I'm also his executive aide. So if you need to email him to ask him to handle something, or if you want a meeting, those requests will go through me. Oh, here she is. Just hello, this is Mischief. So obviously he is the chair of the Public Safety Committee. The first Public Safety Committee meeting of the year was last Tuesday. He had basically a public safety presentation from all of the major parts of the public safety infrastructure here in Seattle. He had it from Chief Diaz, Fire Chief Scoggins, and then Acting Chief Smith of the Care Department. Next week is the Public Safety Committee. It was obviously, every other week. It makes Tuesdays really fun, in case anybody was wondering. And that one is going to be bringing in the Office of Police Accountability and a few other things. In regards to things that are currently happening in the community that we're working on, we get a lot of emails about encampments, particularly at Warren and Mercer. We're working with the Unified Care Team to get that resolved. We're also aware of other encampments that are primarily happening downtown, but whenever we get those notifications, we do flag that to the Unified Care Team, and we work with the Unified Care Team to continue to get updates. So if you see something that that you're having an issue with, obviously, please flag it on the Find It, Fix It app and then email us. Find It, Fix It first and then us, just because it makes it a lot easier for us to be able to follow up on with the Unified Care Team or whoever else. But yeah, we are, just about 7 weeks in on this grand experiment. We're having a great time. So thank you all for having me here. Can I answer any questions while I'm here?
I have one.
Okay, go ahead. Start with her.
Is Councilman Kettle going to be leading or being part of the negotiations with the police guild? I know their contract is being negotiated now, I believe.
So how can I answer this in such a way that legal won't get mad at me? My understanding is that he is part of the negotiations, but I am not legally allowed to say how those negotiations are going or anything else like that. But yes, he is in on those conversations.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
What is your contact information, or can we email, we should email you directly?
You can email me directly or you can email the council member. Our contact information should be available on the council member's website now, including some bios, but mine is, I will put it in the chat here. And then Allison, if you wouldn't mind passing that along, it is rebecca.duran@seattle.gov. And then I'll also, oops, I sent it to the wrong person. My apologies. All right. Sorry, my cat is also like, I'm going to sit on your keyboard. All right. Seattle.gov. And then I will also drop in the council members email as well. I promise you I see everything that goes in there. So when I say everything, I do mean everything. So we have a good time. Let's just put it that way with some of the emails that we get. But obviously, if there's a meeting that you would like the council member to take, if you're on our newsletters, we will be having another newsletter come out this week. We're aiming for a bi-weekly schedule. That one of the things that we want to include is we actually want to have a bit at the end of every newsletter pointing to events that are happening in the community. So a silly example for Magnolia would be the date that the Magnolia farmers market starts up again this spring. So if there are events that you're aware of that you'd like us to boost, now of course it does sort of need to be in District 7. So like if the Nordic Museum is doing something really cool, I will definitely be happy to pass that along to Council Member Strauss's team. But if it's happening in Magnolia, we're happy to promote it.
Allison, could we get the names on those, for those of us who can't hear so well? The names of who they are?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Rebecca. I am Councilmember Kettle's district director.
Yeah, and you did introduce yourself, but I don't know who the others are.
Oh, okay.
The names are up there, which is very small.
Yeah. Can you read them right now, Carol, or are they too small?
Usually
It's
they
flash,
usually
that's the
have
problem,
names
yeah.
on the bottom.
There
they are, right there.
Go off and on.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fine.
So Carol, the top left, Jessica Keller, our new secretary.
Yeah,
In the middle is me. On the right is David
they
Kaplan.
came up and they disappeared.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Kurt
I don't get
Nielsen.
hearing aids till March, so.
Okay. All right. Kurt Nielsen, Brad Miller, Rebecca, Ezekiel, our treasurer, and Anthony Rodriguez from Councilmember Strauss's office.
Mhm.
Okay. And Anthony, you came in late, but here we all are.
Good to see everyone. Sorry I couldn't join you guys in person. I don't know if you can tell I'm still at City Hall. Actually, it's a long night, but glad I can be here. Always love talking with you people.
Bruce?
Okay, one additional point, this is Bruce Carter, and we're coming up on 23 years since the Nisqually earthquake. And at that point in time, the Magnolia Bridge nearly fell down. And since that time, the emergency preparedness people have come and visited us, and they told us they expected that in the next earthquake, it was going to fall down, so they wouldn't have to replace it then or repair it. And we've heard from the candidates at election time that they're fully and supportive, very supportive of replacing it in kind in place. But action after the election has been hard to find. So what is the council members' plan in this regard?
Anthony, is it okay if I take this one?
Developing, I expect, but I want to notch the.
Yeah. Anthony, can I take this one and then I'll let you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I can tell you that with all of the bridges that are in District 7, Magnolia Bridge is at the very top of Councilmember Kettle's to-do list. He mentioned that at the very first transportation meeting that was 2 weeks ago. It is an ongoing process. Obviously, we are very fond of Councilmember Saka, who has decided that he's going to take on being king of potholes as chair of the Transportation Committee. But believe me, Councilmember Kettle is very invested in repairing Magnolia Bridge. emergency management is a big, big deal to the council member. We'll be featuring the Office of Emergency Management at a future public safety meeting for this exact reason. Because when there's an emergency that happens, we need to be able to have, our traffic infrastructure and our public safety infrastructure able to work hand in hand to be able to react quickly. And obviously, if we do not have the Magnolia Bridge, that is a significant concern for the people who reside in Magnolia and being able to get connected to something like Harvard View or Fred Hutch or what have you. So I don't have the exact action plan right now. I can tell you it's very important to Councilmember Kettle, and that is something that he is going to be working on very hard.
Well, one
Yeah.
additional, if a committee is set up to look at the bridges, it'd be nice if the Magnolia Community Council could be represented on it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and just to second a lot of what Rebecca was saying there. I mean, I know you guys have seen it at the previous meetings, but Councilmember Strauss and Councilmember Kettle are pretty close, kind of thick as thieves. Me and Rebecca have worked pretty closely together. Actually, we're currently trying to figure out some additional meetings between the council members. So there's always more to be done. It's hard to say exactly what actions are being taken right now. And a lot of that is because, these are conversations happening between, the important parties, kind of determining what those steps would look like. What I would just kind of emphasize on from our perspective is that Councilmember Strauss is the budget chair. So when it comes to, a bit of that ability to, where money goes and how that needs to be applied to the community. That's very much the perspective that the council member is going to be taking on this end. But I know this is a super high priority with our office, and can't tell you how much I'm excited to be able to work with Rebecca and the rest of Kettle's team. They're all great if you haven't met them all. But yeah, I would, while hard to give direct, specifics right now, I know that this is, constantly being brought up among both of our offices.
Thompson, just another issue with the bridge, which is light replacement.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? The audio broke up a little bit on me. Allison, I think you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I said, this is a question about street light replacement along the bridge. And we sent a letter to the mayor, and I don't know what response we've had, except thank you for the letter and we'll get on it. But can you update us on what's happening? I noticed they have replaced a couple of street lamps farther down on Gaylor. Why they did it there, I don't know. But can you give us an update as to what, if anything, is happening there?
So I do not have an update for you on that front. I'm sorry. But that's why I'm gonna continue to come to these meetings so that you can help keep me accountable for that. I do know that that is the function of Seattle City Light. So I will follow up with them tomorrow just to make sure that A, this is not only on their radar, but actively on their priority list, and B, what is the movement that is happening on this particular issue. And I know that Anthony received that letter also, so Anthony may actually have a better update than I do. So I will turn the floor over to Anthony.
Yeah, so it's kind of right now there isn't a direct update other than that letter that the mayor sent in response. What I want to say to that is while me and Rebecca and our council members are actively working to see how we can push this whole process forward, I do just want to make it clear that receiving that letter with the signed by the mayor, that's no small feat. And from my point of view, we're one Seattle, love the whole Seattle family. There was about a week though where I was reaching out to Seattle City Light, wasn't really receiving much of a response, but then this letter came out. So what that tells me is that there were conversations happening that they were, I was not privy to, but those conversations about this being a serious problem seem to be really moving forward. Definitely, Rebecca, you and I should get together. Maybe we can kind of tackle this from two sides, see if we can't squeeze some more information out for the next meeting. But this is definitely something that constantly coming up, and we want to make sure we can get to these answers as best we can, and fingers crossed, get it solved.
This is Earl Cohen, and Anthony, I know you got an email from me, I think yesterday, well, you call it, I don't know if you saw it. Anyway, I will provide the two of you and everybody in this room an update. Having just driven the bridge about 40 minutes ago, almost all the lights are on the bridge now. There's only one light out, okay, and that is on the curve of the Gaylor or 15 flyover.
The on-ramp, right?
Yeah, the long way out.
Yeah.
So you guys did a fabulous job. You didn't know that.
You know what?
My name.
We'll take it.
A win's a win.
So I think the letter worked. We had improvement prior to the letter, but it was really that after that letter, all of a sudden, all the way working.
Yeah, there is a flat section that goes over the railroad track, so it has been out for over a year. And literally, like last week, I made the original video, and then literally last week it was so that would be better. But I'm realizing Anthony and Rebecca, we need to send you on these letters when we're sending them to the council members. So I'll make sure I include you in future correspondence for sure, so that you understand what it is we've been talking about next time. Yeah, so you guys, good news. Really, all of them, so so while you're both here, and I know we need to turn it over to you, Anthony, in a minute, but I would like to ask you, we've been talking about maybe doing a bridge workshop, and Jason from the chamber is here too, and we're going to be talking with him about that as well. So I don't know if you're staying for that conversation, but I just wanted to put that out there as something that Earl and Janice have been talking about doing collectively with the chamber, MCC and the chamber, and both of your offices. Some kind of a workshop on the bridge to kind of get things figured out on next steps. So that's something, it's just an idea right now, but I think we've got all the people in the room right now to make something happen.
Quick question. I'm presuming that this would be an evening workshop, or would it be during the day?
Open, what do you
I will say, as the controller of the council member's schedule, that an evening or a weekend day would be a little bit easier to wrangle. But obviously I know that is dependent on who can attend and when. I know that my council member would be very interested in attending this for obvious reasons. And I'm sure that Councilmember Strauss would be equally happy to attend this, although obviously I do not work for Councilmember Strauss. But from a scheduling point of view, please have mercy on me and Anthony and pick like an evening or maybe a weekend day. But if not, we will abide. It just may take a little bit.
I'm just gonna throw out to you, since you're both here, and Jason's here too, the first Tuesdays of every month, we already have a room booked that we could do it. I think our executive meetings are from 5:30 to 6:30, so we could do it anytime between 5:30 and 7:30 on first Tuesday. But if the two of you want to collaborate later, and let us know, and Jason, if you want to also chime in there, or even put it in the chat, we can figure out a time to do that.
I would definitely recommend a evening during the week over a weekend. People get so busy with other stuff on the weekend.
So
Fair enough.
If there's a first Tuesday of any month except July and August, we would in December.
But
Yeah.
first Tuesday sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that would be very helpful, maybe critical to have, is one of the engineers, the chief engineer, from the city, who's familiar with the bridge, to participate or, at least provide, some specific information about really the state of the bridge. So two issues, really the state of the bridge, and then how to go forward on getting it in the budget and all the various funding options. Politically, which you guys are skilled at and we're just neophytes, you can help guide us.
Yeah, absolutely. We can definitely make that happen. When y'all figure out a date, just let us know, ideally with at least a month's notice, just because when you have to wrangle two different calendars plus another department, it's just the more lead time we have, the better. But we can absolutely talk to SDOT and make sure that we get a bridge engineer, somebody who has either worked on existing bridges or would be working on Magnolia Bridge, and make sure that they are included in this, and to make sure that they are prepared to answer the questions that you have, and and make sure that there's like a work plan and that kind of thing.
Great.
Also on that meeting, I think it would be really helpful to have whoever was involved in the repair of West Seattle Bridge, whether that's a project manager from the city or an engineer from the firm that repaired it, because it was done, it's a 40-year fix. It was done at a fraction of the cost of repairing, so it'd be kind of enlightening to find out if that would translate to what could be done here.
Yeah, absolutely. That can definitely be a conversation. David, did you have a point that you wanted to make?
Well, just Allison mentioned the first Tuesday.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest.
And it seems like if we close, so the first Tuesday in March.
Would it be May
And
7th
the first Tuesday of April is April 2nd.
or May 7th? Would May 7th work for everything?
Yeah, so what I was gonna say is that, yeah, like with what we're describing here with the parties that would need to be involved, I do think that we could probably make the April one work, but just to make sure, I think that the May date is probably the best bet. Just to make sure that we make sure all our chickens are a row and all that.
So I'm gonna offer up May 7th or June 4th, and then you can let us know what works for you.
Yeah.
And Jason, me too.
And Rebecca and I can work on all the members of the city of Seattle that need to be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I have one more question about everyone else in the room. And this is actually for Bob and for Dan. So it's come to my attention, and this is a safety issue, so really speaking to Bob a little bit here. And I don't know where Pop or Pool, I don't know which district it's in. But anyway, the lifeguard situation for the summer is that they need to hire 350 lifeguards to staff all of the pools, the outdoor pools, and the public beaches. And right now, I know that the city has put a hiring freeze on all city personnel, except for central personnel, which is like fire and police, right? The lifeguards are under the fire department, but they have been excluded from this. And so there is a freeze on hiring lifeguards, which makes no sense to me. And what I understand is that last week and this week is when the pool they typically hire all of the lifeguards for the summer. So I'm giving you all this background information because I don't think I didn't know all of this, and I'm guessing maybe you all didn't either. But what's going to happen is all these people they've been training to be lifeguards that have been going through the program, they can't offer them a job. And so these kids, most of them are high school and college students, they're going to go work for a fast food place or a restaurant, or they're going to find some other job because they can't be guaranteed their summer job with the city beaches and pools. So is there a way, my question I guess is how can we move the needle on this to have the city include lifeguards as an essential safety employee and take them off of the freeze for hiring so that they can hire everyone?
Yeah, I think that that's a really good point. I think that, as we emphasize safety in the city to de-emphasize safety, where our kids in the community, other members of the community, maybe spending time. I think this makes a lot of sense as far as asking these questions, seeing what may be able to move forward. I had heard about this being a bit of an issue, though, as far excuse me, as far as an answer to your question. I don't know that I have one right now, but I have jotted this down. It gives me something really, something good to chew on, something to see if we can't get some good answers for you. At least, get the conversation going, if it's not already in the works or what have you.
I would move to authorize the chair to draft and send a letter to the mayor, thanking him for his good work on the streetlights and directing his attention to this other major issue in our community.
So Anthony or Rebecca.
And I'll second it.
Yeah, so we'll draft the letter. We'll be happy to draft the letter if you think it'll help,
Yeah. So if I remember correctly from regarding the letter that was sent about the bridge lights, I believe when my council member was in person and that was being discussed, he had asked that you guys hold off by a couple weeks, for just to do a little stuff behind the scenes, kind of see where we're at. I would say I would want to just bring this by my council member just to make sure that this strategically seems like the best move. Yeah, there's only so much political capital. Not to say that the mayor shouldn't. I agree with you that this should be a priority. I think I see that, but let me just make sure I get this in front of the council member in case there's any thoughts as to how we move this forward.
Okay.
That's good, but Allison, I think we should draft the letter, have it written, and if they don't think it's good to send it to the mayor and the council member, I think we should send it to the sale. Okay. Because this is actually a citywide issue. This is closing down pools, especially, in terms of equity. I mean, how horrible is that to not, be able to open up the next river's pool?
And that's actually the big question I wrote down is how are we going to have open pools over the summer at all? Yeah.
And just to give you a little bit of backstory, apparently the HR department was supposed to file paperwork with the city to try and make this, to get this exemption or this, lifted, and they never filed it. So there is something that was not done on the lifeguards, the HR department in the city somewhere, dropped the ball too. So that's everything I found.
Why don't we give them a week to get back with us and then our letter? So.
Okay, and I'm happy to send you a draft, both of you a draft of our letter. Once we get it done, I'll probably be this weekend. I can get it done and send it to you.
Yeah, that'll be very helpful. So I know that we are technically running out of time, but I would just like to point out that Anthony hasn't gotten an opportunity to give you updates from Councilmember Strauss's office, whereas I did. So I just want to make sure that he has the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, we're right on schedule. We have 15 minutes, okay? Yeah, you're good. So go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah. So I will say this is a kind of a brief update. I think a lot of what I was gonna bring up was, the issues regarding the bridge lights, which I took up a lot of our conversation in the first half hour of this meeting. So I'm really glad to hear that shaking the tree actually worked here. We got those lights back on, or at least the vast majority of them. And definitely, if it sounds like you guys already know, but the moment you guys begin seeing this happen again in real time, reach out to myself or Rebecca, and we can try and snuff this out sooner rather than later. Beyond that, though, I do just want to let you know. So the council member, he is the chair of the Finance, Native Communities, and Tribal Governments Committee. We're going to be having our first committee meeting tomorrow. It's mostly informational. It's we're having a presentation on the budget process and stuff like that. It probably technical stuff, but just wanted to give you a heads up. That's where we're at. The council member is also a member of Sound Transit, so a lot of his time has been a lot of meetings on that front. So not a whole lot to, report out on that at this time, other than, being also, as Rebecca said about for Kettle, I control Councilmember Strauss's calendar, so it's taken up more time than I originally thought, but that's okay. He's getting some good work and good FaceTime in, trying to see how we can increase transit in the city. And yeah, I think that's honestly about it right now. There's not a whole lot, a lot of the work we've been doing has been to lead up to our first committee tomorrow. So once we have that, the ball will really get rolling, and we'll probably have more to say, each month moving forward.
Okay, great. Does anybody have any questions for Councilmember Scott?
Do we have any sense of when the discussions over the next big transportation package are going to start?
So I don't know that I'm the best to answer that question. I kind of either direction, but what I can do is I can get that to our transportation policy advisor, Naomi Lewis. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to meet her. Yeah, she's going to be a lot more knowledgeable on where we may be on that. Would you mind shooting me an email? I'm also jotting down some notes here. But if there's any particular questions that you want to ask, just so that I don't get the verbiage wrong, get terminology wrong or anything like that.
And I can jump onto that too a little bit. Today in today's transportation committee, they did have their first briefing on the Move Seattle levy. So it started. I can't obviously right now, any sort of progress is somewhat incremental, but it has started. So again, the more you keep Anthony and I in the loop about specific things that you need to see, or that you would like to see, obviously the more that we can bring that to our council member. But the process did start this morning, although right now, again, we were laying the groundwork this morning.
Yeah.
And oh, my apologies.
Oh, sorry. So what is the most effective way for us to communicate with you, and when should we do that? Do you know yet?
Email. I live on email.
But I mean, as far as the Move Seattle levy, I guess.
Right. I mean, one of the questions is whether the discussion about the bridge issues should be moved up if we need that input earlier on.
Yeah, so I think that me and Rebecca are probably not the best people to answer this right this moment. I do know that one of the many meetings that we're working on is specifically connecting the council members multiple times to discuss issues regarding Magnolia Bridge and how strategize how we can move this forward. I do want to just flag, and not to make any excuses, but the council, we are running a little bit like a month behind because of the process to appoint a new council member. We were required to do that for the first 20 days with this new class. So it feels, from my perspective, it feels like we should be further along. But then I have to remind myself, only February, and we did lose a few weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. In some of this process, so trucking along, trying to get as many answers and good stuff for you guys as we can, but just wanted to give a little context.
Is there any money for Magnolia Bridge included in the present proposal?
I don't even know what the stage of the proposal is right now, unfortunately.
No, that wasn't the question. The question was there any, do you know if there's any money in there?
For the Magnolia Bridge?
We don't know anything.
Yeah, right now, I don't think either of our offices are really in a position to answer that question. It's just things are so early on. I can definitely, I think what me and Rebecca are really trying to get across is from what we've been told from our council members, this is a high priority. I don't want to speak out of turn and give you information that ends up being incorrect if I'm just wrong.
Do you think that's something that you could report back to us on, or to Allison, the next days? Here, I mean, just answering whether there's currently money being included for the bridge. I mean,
And just to be clear, we're talking about money for the bridge in the budget as a whole, or is this about the
Well, for example, could there be, and maybe, you know, we need you to talk to the officials or the bureaucrats to say, you know, we need to get this off the ground, and if it requires the first step is to have a environmental assessment, because apparently the last one is overdue, is no longer effective, then can we get money for that to get the,
right, for the EIS.
right?
Okay, I understand what you're saying. I am not going to commit to anything at this time because I really don't want to even accidentally mislead you as to whatever the process is. All I can say is that this is a huge issue that is important to both of our offices, and we will keep you updated as we know more. That's all I can commit to right now, because the last thing I want to do is even unintentionally lie to you. This is too an important an issue to risk misspeaking about it.
And I second that, absolutely. But that's part of why we're both coming, you know, every single month to these meetings, because we want to make sure that when we have those updates, we can make sure we get those to you in you know, as close to real time as we can.
Thank you to both of you for coming tonight. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Councilmember Strauss at the last meeting said, send him your wish list, which I did, but then I should have added sidewalks to it, but it was the 33rd Avenue branch.
Western branch, right. We're gonna be doing a little bit of goal setting at the end of this meeting, and so if anything comes out of that, I'll definitely share that with you guys. Okay.
Really appreciate it, and sorry I couldn't be there in person with you guys like I intended, but always good seeing you guys' faces, and I hope you guys have a great you know, great rest of your night.
Yeah, and thank you for hosting. Really appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
All right, bye-bye.
So Jason, welcome. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
And then Scott, can you say something down in the back?
Something again. On the back.
Yeah, I can hear Scott too.
Well, welcome, and we're looking forward to talking about chatting with you and collaborating and hearing what the chamber is up to, and yeah, I'm gonna give it the floor.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Good to see some familiar faces in the room. Excuse me. I had COVID a couple weeks ago, and the aftermath has made my voice less than stable sometimes. So I apologize if I have to pause to clear it or take a drink. Chamber, you know, we've had a great 2023, starting 2024. As far as just the organization, we've got 15 board members, 22 ambassadors this year, and really looking forward to an exciting year. You know, some of the stuff that came up in the discussion earlier, you know, I hear about the Magnolia Bridge pretty often as well. You know, a lot of businesses are very concerned that, you know, that could dry up the village pretty quickly if that bridge were not to be replaced one-to-one. So we would very much be interested in something to collaborate on, you know, new information and sharing with the community. Me personally, it looks like May 7th and June 4th are problematic for my schedule, but as I mentioned, we've got a team of people that I could probably pull together several representatives to be a part of one of those dates. But yeah, it seems like that we've not had much refreshed news about the bridge in quite some time. You know, we would hear occasionally about funding for different studies of, you know, various kinds over the last couple of years, but really not much beyond that. I think the funding question is, you know, obviously the biggest question. As far as what the chamber is working on, we've got several standing committees, which are there pretty much every year. Your membership committee, your finance, you know, things like community engagement is our phrasing for advocacy. So anything that might affect primarily our business districts, our businesses and things like that, that group is talking about those issues. We actually had a member ask us the question about the 15th Avenue project a few months back. And so I don't know if any of you were able to attend. We hosted a meeting with SDOT about 4 weeks ago now, just to hear status on that, because a lot of people are concerned that traffic in and out of Magnolia is going to be impacted in a major way, especially if you're headed north across the Ballard Bridge. So we're always trying to listen and hear things like that that our membership is talking about. Did I hear somebody ask a question?
No.
No? Okay, sorry. Thought I heard a voice. We're trying to stay active in regards to offering opportunities for our businesses and our members as a whole. I don't know how many realize that we have both business and family memberships in the chamber. But we try to offer networking type opportunities on a regular basis. We've been doing happy hours monthly for a little over a year now. Normally it falls the third week of the month. For February though, we had to push it out a week to the 27th. So a week from tonight, we're having our happy hour down at the Highliner Public House there in Fisherman's Terminal. And it's a couple of opportunities there in regards to, again, our members, meeting other people from the community, but also it's showing love to those local businesses. I don't know if you know, but the last few months for businesses in general have been a struggle. Retail, restaurants and so forth have been not seeing as robust of sales in the last couple months as what we had seen in the fall and the holidays. So anything we can do like that, just to, draw a crowd in a positive way and ring the till for one of our members is key. You're probably aware and have seen the results of the beautification project in the village. We are very excited to say that we pretty much have wrapped up all 5 phases other than just some small stuff here and there. That's a project that our first meeting was, I want to say, in the summertime of 2018. So over 5 years of a lot of planning and fundraising and communicating and things like that. But we're very proud of the changes it's brought in our village. I think it's a dynamic. Thank you. Yeah, it's very much a feel-good story. I remember the night, I guess it was in January 2018, when I just threw that out as an idea at our annual meeting, wondering if anybody would join that type of thing. And the first phone call I got was from the owner of Vixen, because she had been wanting something better for many, many years. I said, okay, that's great. We've got 2. Who else do you know? And just to watch the team kind of come together naturally, to find, a fundraiser expert, a local architect that had worked with many city projects and schools and stuff like that, to find an arborist and a communications person. It was neat to see how it just kind of came together magically, and to see the way the community as a whole stepped up to be the lion's share of the fundraising. Even during a pandemic, it was just amazing to see how Magnolia made that possible through their generous giving. So for those who are part of that, thank you for your donations. I'll say one of the things that we're mindful of, and we're going to continue to try to find as many ways as possible to convey and communicate over and over again, is, the hardscape project is done, but every year going forward, we have to maintain. We've got to buy the flower pots, we've got to water, and people don't realize how expensive just the watering of those flowers is. It has to be done pretty much daily. So every year we're going to have to go back to the community and say, okay, we're, fundraising for maintenance. We've got to buy the pots, water them. We've got to maintain the umbrellas. Those have to be cleaned at least once a year at minimum. You can imagine the amount of dust and droppings that end up on those umbrellas. And we've tried doing it ourselves as far as just a manual scrubbing, and it really doesn't get them very clean at all. So we've got a pretty good arrangement with DA Burns to clean them professionally, to do it well, and to do it less than what they normally would be allowed to charge for that kind of service. So if you've got a voice and you can help shout that out every year when you see the notice come out, that we need to raise, I think this year, let me look at my notes real quick. Yeah, so for this year, we need to raise $30,000 still to purchase water, install, fertilize, take down 45 flower pots is what we will have when it's all said and done. And then we have 25 umbrella canopies that we'll need to have cleaned probably around October and so forth. But it was very heartwarming to see how that has been used. I remember vividly on a March afternoon in 2020, when the first benches and tables and chairs and all that had been delivered. And we were standing out there literally unpacking boxes and installing as best we can. And I just remember thinking, because the rumors were out that, you know, everything was going to shut down because of this strange virus that was out. And I thought, have we wasted all this time and all this money and all this work because it's just going to sit here and go to waste? And it was absolutely the opposite result, because it offered a safe space to dine outside and for people to get their order to go. I think it really allowed some safe socialing. That's not really a word, but I'm going to use it tonight. I've still got COVID brain. I'll just blame it on that. But it offered a safe way for our people to still get together and still be social, and in the process, support local businesses. So again, I'm so proud of our community and how they helped make that possible through very generous donations and so forth. What else?
It's a quick question. Love the street tables, and I love the team that, I don't know if this is even in your bailiwick, but the team of people that clean up the place, clean up all the leaves. Typically, I see them on Friday mornings, but I got a comment which is, my God, those leaf blowers are noisy. And I mean noisy to the extent you've got two guys walking around with the leaf blowers, not wearing ear protection, and it's way over any legal level. It's whoever's running that team really ought to take a look at that.
Yeah, that's not officially under my purview. We actually had a gentleman, I guess it was last summer or maybe early fall, that came to our booth at the farmer's market. And he was just commenting on the improvements in the village and, you know, loving all the benches and tables and flowers and all that kind of stuff. And I could tell the way he was talking, there was a but coming. And sure enough, after a few sentences, the but came, and he said, but the leaves just detract from the look and all the improvements that have been made. And I said, I get it. You know, the first year that the flower baskets were up, I've still got a hat around here somewhere. Oh, I'll be right back. I had a comical hat that our team made for me as Mr. Sprinkles. I was the waterer the first year and pushing around the water cart, and I had one of those battery powered blowers. And so as I'm watering, it takes a while to fill up each of the flower pots. I would blow a few, move the hose to the next one, blow a few, and so forth. By the time I would go up one side of the block and down the other, because year one, we just had the one block between 32nd and 33rd, there were already leaves falling on the first side that I started. So I knew the pain that he was talking about, how those leaves just kind of detract. And so I told him, the challenges we'd had, cleanup days and all kinds of volunteers and all this kind of stuff. But within a few hours, it pretty much was almost back to what you started with, unfortunately, just the nature of those trees. Well, he approached me, I guess this would have been July, because he came to our Summerfest booth about a week later and said, "Do you remember me?" I said, "Absolutely, I remember you." He said, "Well, I like to not be someone who just talks about something. I like to be a doer." And he said, "I'm going to pay for," I think he said, at least the next year, to have a crew go out and clean up the village. And so, and he's not allowed us to share his name and information. He just wanted to do it out of the kindness of his heart. And so he's actually contracted a local gardening type or landscape type business.
Yeah, they do a real nice job. I mean, they leave the place spotless. I'm just impressed, but the noise is something I would be concerned with if I employed those folks.
Yeah, which is surprising because it's a very successful landscaping company, so they do this all the time. So I'm surprised they're not using proper protection. I don't know, but that's another example again where just someone that loves their community stepped up and said, without fanfare, I'm going to donate to make this a little less leafy. So again, we've been very fortunate to have very generous people in our community step up to make those things possible. As far as like looking at the year, as I mentioned, we try to have the happy hour type gathering once a month. We do for our members have a private night with a sommelier, one of our members, to do a special thing on March 13th. Our biggest fundraiser for the chamber, we have to supplement a little bit from our membership dues, is the Vino in the Village events. And so the next one coming up is April 27th. To my knowledge, based on the years I've been with the chamber, which goes back to 2017, this will be the largest number of wineries we've ever had. We're supposed to have about 21 wineries that night. But it's just a great social night to get out and try some local wines. And because we're a nonprofit, you can buy bottles tax-free. So that's always a nice evening. Usually the restaurants do really well those evenings as well. And then we'll have another one of those September 28th. We started last year, or well, probably about 18 months ago, doing a business and breakfast kind of event where we have a speaker come and give a topic on business and a networking kind of thing. So we'll pick that back up. The one Seattle Day of Service, you've probably heard about that in the last couple of years. That's from the mayor's office. The next one is scheduled tentatively, I believe, for May 18th. And so we'll probably have at least one kind of volunteer cleanup effort in Magnolia to coincide with that. So if you know some things like that and you want to be a part of a team to, improve one of the local parks, or I know last year, a couple times I was part of a group that went down to like the Thorndike and Gilman area to just pick up garbage and stuff, especially along the BNSF tracks. You'd be amazed the stuff that you could find out there, doors and tires and vacuums and all kinds of things. But it's just a good day to kind of celebrate and, clean up the city a little bit, do our part rolling up the sleeves. We did the Steinwalk event again last year with the local breweries. We're going to do that again, probably July 20th. Again, just showing some love to some of those local brewers in our area. You probably all are very familiar with Summerfest being the first weekend of August, so August 2nd through the 4th. And technically, the chamber does not own that event. It was started by the chamber way back in, I want to say the 60s is what I've heard. And it's had many names and, many setups and so forth. but there's a very dedicated group of people, led primarily by Doug Kamikis, if you know him. He and his wife Cindy Ennis have led that charge for several years and really taken that entire setup to, the most successful I've ever heard or seen myself. It's amazing the amount of time and effort that they put into that. The chamber works very closely with that. We serve as pretty much the fiscal sponsor. All the transactions run through the chamber. All the accounting is managed by the chamber. A lot of the communications, a lot of the volunteer recruiting, things like that. So we're very much involved, but it's not our owned event. So if it goes bad, don't think of the chamber. If it goes good, think of the chamber.
I think I'm sorry, Kurt Nielsen has a question.
Okay.
I think Kurt had his hand up.
Yeah, Kurt, would you like to unmute?
All right, there it is. Yeah, this goes back to the Vino in the Village. Do you know the status, or does the chamber still have the wine barrel fire pits?
We do not. The main problem with those was storage. They're bulky, they're heavy. So for a while, Dan Penhollow was storing them in his basement storage there underneath the Magnolia mailbox in that building, but was running out of space with his own things that he needed to store. So currently, I think the garden center has at least two, if not all three of them. He uses them for Winterfest and the lighting of the tree. But he also has recently, I think just last week, told me that he was challenged with keeping them stored all year long. Did you have a desire for using, or?
Well, my son made them, which means I did a lot of the work myself. So I guess I have a little vested interest. That was his Eagle Scout project. I guess I wouldn't want them to be thrown away. I don't know. I can't really say I have a place to store them, but I guess I would be I guess I would volunteer to help with the trying to find a home for them.
Well, James, do you know James Rabel, the owner of the garden center?
No, I knew the previous owners.
Okay, Chuck and Margaret.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to connect the two of you if you'd like and see if he's come up with a solution. I mean, I can remember last year at Winterfest, I was standing about 6 inches away from one because it was freezing out there, and they were very effective for keeping warm. The only challenge is storage 364 other days.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think they're a great asset for the 4 or 5 days a year when they would be used, but you have 360 days that they need to be stored, and they are big.
Yeah. Is this the same Kurt Nielsen with Illuminate?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd like to talk with you sometime about the chamber.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for asking though. What else? After Summerfest, the car show typically has been about a week later on a Sunday, which would be August 11th this year. I know there's talk, Eric has been talking about possibly moving that a little further out, wondering if that would draw more attention or kind of separate it from the busyness of Summerfest. Trick or treat in the village, obviously very popular. We're going to continue to do that. And then finally, Winterfest, December 7th. Usually it's the first Saturday of December each year, just a way to have some family fun type of things around the village. Again, years ago, it's morphed over the years. For a while, it was the holiday open house or something to that effect, I believe. which was mostly dining and sharing of alcoholic beverages by the retailers.
Chocolate. Lots of chocolate.
Lots of chocolate. I know when I first started with the chamber, there were some things more outside. And that very first year, I was soaked to the bone with sideways rain that was very chilly. And that dampened also the attendance. So we've since then tried to draw more stuff indoors. This past December, we had also the holiday market that the Nordstrom Guild put together. They've done that years before and they brought that back. They were at the Lutheran Church. So that's kind of a summary of our calendar. Any specific questions that your group would have?
We have a long list, but I'm gonna open the floor to others first. Is there anything that you, Scott, would have?
Just a question or comment or observation. I saw on King 5 News on their app, one of their top reports was last last week was on how the former city council's new fee on food delivery has hammered a lot of restaurants, and specifically it picked Il Villaggio, which I think I still call Pronto Pizza. They focused on them because they said that their delivery business has plummeted like less than half, and that they were really dependent on that on certain nights. So I don't know, I know we have a kind of a disproportionate amount of pizza and pasta places and takeout, but I wonder if other restaurants are, if it's worth it to, if it's hitting enough of our restaurants, would you guys do like a letter to the council? Hey, would you guys please reconsider this, because no one's going to pay, if it's $10 extra now for takeout on the apps where it used to be 49 cents, everybody's going to think twice, and that is going to hit a lot of restaurants.
Yeah, I didn't see the report firsthand when it came out. It was on King 5, but the owner of Il Villaggio actually texted it to me earlier today. So that was the first time I had seen it. And immediately it brought to mind, I'd love to kind of poll a lot of the other restaurants to see if they're having the same impact and see if we can ask for help at city council or mayor's office or a little bit of everywhere, because some of the examples he gave, they were talking about on a Sunday, they normally would have had, I think he said 13 orders placed through those third-party apps on a regular Sunday at that hour, and they had 2. So, as I mentioned earlier, restaurants and retail have already had a hard couple of months. That just kind of helps build on it. I know one of the main things that the owner was talking about is, not assuming they could do a whole lot immediately to change the policy. They did want to do a re-education of their customers to say, you can still go onto our website and place an order directly and avoid some of these extra fees that makes it so much more expensive. And the average person just, if they've gotten into a routine of they're using Uber Eats or they're using DoorDash or whatever, and all of a sudden now it's this much more. We had a issue with that probably about 3 weeks ago. We were placing an order through an app for Chipotle, and they were promoting that they had waived their delivery fees, and 4 of us had placed an order together and looked at the total at the end and we're like, this doesn't make sense. And once we set it for pickup instead of the quote unquote free delivery for that day, it was a $30 difference. So I get it. If this kind of stuff is happening, we were about ready to cancel that order. And then we said, well, let's just give it a shot here and see if we pick it up, what's the difference? So yes, I could see us working with our community engagement committee to see if we can poll the businesses locally, and then see if we can write a letter, have some conversations to see if there's something that can be done to either change the policy or get some help in educating the community that there are other options out there.
And then the flip side, it's also gonna hurt all the people who now depend on being part-time delivery drivers, right? Because they're, it's gonna be delivering, people will probably opt to pick up or eat at home, so that there goes their livelihood as well.
It's not an easy solution.
So Jason, I'm really interested, or not me personally, but Magnolia Community Council, when we did our goal setting, one of the topics that was pretty high up on the list was collaborating with the chamber. So really fantastic to come tonight. And I just want to ask, there's a few things I have that we made a list during the executive meeting of possible areas of interest. I'll just rattle them off right now. But I think if we have for the next 5 or 6 minutes, if we could focus on the Magnolia Marina Trail, that would be probably the highest level of interest that we had from the group. But so the other areas were safety, the Marina Trail, the bridge workshop, which we've talked about, which is going to be great. We can collaborate with some of your folks on that. And then arts organizations with another, cultural and arts organizations with another topic that we wanted to explore with Liberty. And safety was another one. And then we briefly talked about the public perception of Magnolia and how sometimes it can hurt us.
Yes.
A great example would be the split district thing that happened, last year. And we talked about it. And sort of what we came away with was we'd rather not be pushing back against this, narrative that keeps coming up, but rather maybe think about what Magnolia could be known for,
right,
aside from the perception of it being an affluent neighborhood. Because we all know, we live here, that there's a very wide demographic of people that live here. And yes, the tour buses go by, Magnolia Boulevard, but there's a lot of other streets and a lot of other people with Magnolia that come from all different backgrounds. So that's something that we talked about as an executive committee, something that maybe we could collaborate with your group.
Yeah, the perception aspect is very much something that we've been talking a lot about. And it really did come up in the redistricting conversations. Whether it's perception or reality, it doesn't matter. It's how we're going to be treated and seen by a large swath across Seattle. And so we've made it our aim to try to do the best that we can to develop better relationships across, different communities, downtown, to not just go to city council or mayor's office when we need something, but go to them in, partnership and ask how we can support them and the goals that they have that align with, things that we believe in. Safety very much is something I hear all the time in conversations with local businesses. Is Earl in the room tonight?
Yeah. I know.
So Earl and I met a few months back, and I know he's done a fantastic job with the neighborhood watch. And we've had at least an initial conversation along the lines of, could something like that work for businesses, to try to encourage them not to be, vigilantes and take justice into their hands, but just to know each other and look out for each other and be aware of patterns of coming and going and, who works for them so that they can just, be an extra set of eyes and ears. Because although Magnolia doesn't have nearly the troubles that other communities have in that, it's still a problem. And some have been hit multiple times, and every time they do, it's a hit for repairing glass and insurance costs to take care of it. And some of them are very hesitant to even file a claim because they're afraid they're going to be dropped by their insurance. So we would definitely love to talk about those type of things as well.
The other issue that Allison raised was in our last meeting, somebody came up with the idea of kind of gradually shifting the perception of Magnolia by, for example, focusing on arts and culture, and what might we be able to do? And I'm wondering if anything has come up that that you've seen that is something that could be encouraged or.
I know there's a small core group that would love to see the art walks come back. We started that project with Max, Magnolia Art Experience, way back in probably 2018 or so. There was a small grant from the city that helped kind of get that kicked off. The format back then basically was we would, having the relationships with the businesses, we would try to find hosts and Max would find the artists and quarterly set up a time for people to come and, see art on display. Part of the challenge for the chamber was it didn't feel like there was much, it wasn't evolving over time. It felt like you were just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And so, after a few quarters of doing pretty much the same thing with a core group of artists, people are no longer excited coming out and wanting to partake of that. So finding a way to do this and keep it fresh and, find new, ways of doing it. It's music, it's is it pottery, instead of just framed pieces on a wall only. What are some ways to really make this an event that people want to come out to? I know over the years, many people have talked about Summerfest no longer having the art show that it was known for several years. I know it was pretty much dying off about the time I came on with the chamber. It lasted maybe once or twice. And basically, my understanding was, one, it was a huge challenge to keep the art safe that weekend, being kept outdoors, from vandalism, from weather, all kinds of different things, dust blowing in the wind since it's out on the ball field. And it was a constant struggle to have enough people that were invested enough to volunteer and make that possible, because you had to have people manning the booth or the tent at all hours for 3 days straight. So finding kind of like we had with the team that's pulled off the beautification project, finding that right team that's really passionate about art. The person's name that I would put at the top of that list, I don't know how many know her, is Colleen Monette. She was on the board with Max way back when, and I know she's brought it up almost every time I've talked to her that she would love to see the art walk come back or something along those lines. But if we're looking to do it just how we did it before, I think it'll probably die off kind of like it did. I mean, the pandemic, sped that up, obviously, but finding that core people that can put all of their time and energy and passion into this with a lot of creative ideas, I think that would be something we would have to have.
Great. I'm planning to start an arts and culture committee on our council, and so I'll reach out to Pauline and hopefully get some other interested community members to see what we get started on that. But music would be a lovely
Right.
thing to add to.
Live music.
Thought.
We already have a few minutes, but just a quick question or comments. We have a couple of retail vacancies, but since the beautification project is finished, would it be worth it? Or just want to make sure that you reach out to these brokers, maybe who may have not been in the village in a while. Laura Miller, who's got her name on every retail space in the city. Think back and see what, it might be worth it to show them the improvements, and that might help energize the, some of those vacant spaces. My mom lives in Edmonds, and I just have Edmonds envy because I think it's got a similar demographic, but they have such a strong, they have a prolific restaurateur who's got like half a dozen restaurants there, and attracting so much more commerce there and investment. So, you know, I would reach out to them and say, come down and see, you know, maybe there's an opportunity to do something. So that's just.
I actually sat down with a commercial real estate person about 2 weeks ago and asked some of these very questions. She actually lives in Magnolia. It's not Lauren, it's a different person. There's some unique challenges with Magnolia in regards to, except for Zamania's back in the day, there's not a lot of outside traffic coming to Magnolia typically. We're hoping that the improvements in the village will make that, you know, start to trend in that positive direction more than it has already. I've spoken to multiple restaurateurs that are from Magnolia and have been very successful in other parts of Seattle that have said that they find it hard to believe that the traffic of just Magnolians would be sufficient for the type of high-end restaurant they want to do. So there are some definite challenges, but again, we are hopeful that these improvements will start to move that needle. And yeah, we will continue to have those conversations, and you know, I'm hopeful that we'll see some, you know, positive development in regards to the space between ACE and US Bank. That's been an eyesore for decades now. There's a project, quote unquote, in the works, but we'll wait to see.
One
But he's got a
question, I just thought, it just escapes me.
Well, while you're thinking, we'll have to have a quick question for you, Jason.
Yeah, just quickly, you know, we've been working with the city or trying to work with the city for a while about developing a trail between Magnolia, the village, and the marina, and then on to you know, the trail, the city trail. I'm wondering if that, you know, as Expedia comes back to life a little bit, whether having a trail like that would encourage more people to come up to the village, or have you thought about that? Or
Yeah, over the years, I've had many, you know, casual conversations with, you know, businesses down in Elliott Bay, residents. Is that Leslie, by the way?
yes.
Okay, from this angle, I couldn't tell for sure.
Right.
Good to see you again. I'm definitely intrigued, you know, and not that it would ever come close to replacing the Magnolia Bridge, but anything you can do to drive extra traffic towards the village, and it just would be fun. I used to walk that non-trail many a times. It'd be nice if that was more of a trail, but yeah, I'm definitely open to having those conversations.
I think just as a comment, this is Don. Yeah, I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at the Seattle Parks Department 5-year plan they published a year or so late, a few weeks ago. But one of their emphasis for the Seattle Parks Department in their whole 5-year plan is connecting the parks. And they specifically show a green line, a little green line that would be where the Magnolia Trail would be, and on up through Magnolia and Carroll, including the 33rd Avenue Bridge, as I interpreted their rather small map. So it's conceivable. I'm hopeful that maybe Parks Department might actually have some more interest in this concept than they have in the past.
The problem with 33rd Avenue Village is doesn't belong to parks. It's an S-Dot, it's a street right.
Yeah. No, there's a couple in there that I mean,
And,
equally.
you know, the original Olmsted plan for connecting parks. But, you know, Discovery Park was a military site in 1903.
So Jason, interestingly enough, when we toured the Marina Trail with Greg Spots and his assistant Elise, she oversees the parklets. You know, and basically your last section of your beautification was a parklet. That last little bit, the sidewalks outside of Uptown Espresso is considered a parklet. So it was actually FDOT that approved that being constructed. And so when she was touring the Marina Trail with us, you know, they own that road, that right of way. SDOT owns that right of way through there.
Mhm.
And so I asked the question, would it be possible to develop this as a parklet? Because SDOT, we basically would need their permission to do that, and she didn't say no. So one of this is totally a harebrained idea, but who knows, maybe it would work. The group that you had do the parklet work, the heavy lifting, I mean, I'm thinking it might be nice to have them come and speak to us about their whole process. So, and we could have a lease come from SDOT and just explore that as an idea of whether it's a viable way to go forward or not, but that's the one kind of unusual solution that might help.
Possibly, yeah, the parklets were a big deal for the city years ago, and it seems like they've stopped emphasizing it as much the last few years. We were thankful that they did approve that part of the project, obviously. But yeah, who knows? Maybe that could be part of a solution.
Would you be willing to help us organize something to collaborate with your folks at some point at one of our meetings?
Yes, I would probably push it out a few months because the group that's been doing this, we've been hard at work for 5 years straight. So I think most of them have in their minds a mini vacation. So maybe not next.
Yeah, just to get their advice and guidance, really. Is
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. I think, thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invitation. Thanks for your partnership.
There's one more question.
I thought, we talked about perception of Magnolia and what might be a little better. I don't know if you've heard of this, I got an email, it might have been Windermere, it was kind of real estate oriented. And it said that there was a survey that said that Magnolia was the friendliest neighborhood in the US. Based on all the notes from real estate agents, and their clients coming here, and they tallied all the comments of like friendly people and friendly neighbors and.
Right, I did see something
And so
like that,
there was
yeah.
a perception. So an interesting thing, maybe in rebranding that, you know, whenever people think of it's regarded in the real estate circles as one of the friendliest friendliest neighborhood in the US, which I thought.
Yeah, when we saw that, we actually put it on our blog post and then put it on the social media channels.
Okay.
And it was a Friday evening, which social media on Friday evening is not a good time to get anything seen typically. It blew up. It was shared and liked and, commented more than probably any post we've had in the last year. The organization that put it together, it's a nationwide group. And this wasn't just for Seattle, this was nationwide neighborhoods. And Magnolia was #1, followed by, I think it was Kingwood, which is just north of Houston. I forget, there were several others, obviously, they did at least 10. But yeah, I would love to find ways to continue to build on that because when we put it out there, like I said, on our socials, the people of Magnolia absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Well, thank you, Jason. And we're going to take a 5-minute break. Welcome to stay. We'll be doing some goal setting at the end of the evening. Take a 5-minute break for everyone on Zoom and in the room.
Thank you again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Jason.
Welcome back, everybody. Earl, you're up.
Okay, this will be very quick. So as you heard, the lights are on the bridge, so that, you know, goes down to giving that letter to the mayor. That was good. A couple of other things. I met with Stephen App a couple days ago. I would say his last name, but I can't. Yeah, so you know who I'm saying. Anyway, Mr. Gray, we're talking about disaster preparedness. You know, and I wanted to moving on that with the group. So I will send out an email to people that's interested in getting together and kind of doing the next steps. I'm sending an email to Amy that she can post on our website about the Office of Emergency Management puts on monthly disaster preparedness basics. I know.
Which they have at one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and actually, Stephen mentioned there were a whole bunch of documents
Oh, yeah.
in somewhere to check with you, so I'll follow up with
Which
you.
I
about-
did give to him because he was going to scan them and post them.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
because I was saying, you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
yeah,
Magnolia and West Seattle were the first two emergency preparedness committees in the city.
so anyway, that's a big one, and then the other, this is an opportunity to get the Magnolia Chamber of Commerce involved, with following up what the things that I had talked about a few months ago. Trying to get maybe Bart Biondo, who does a lot of neighborhood black watch stuff together, to coordinate with the Chamber of Commerce to see if there's something else we can do beyond block watch. John, Bruce, and I live in a pretty active block watch group, with a lot of emails. And I don't know if the rest of the groups do, but it's something we can try to promote more, like for businesses. I know Ron emailed me the other day about, you know, he's frustrated watching somebody walking the cartel, shut the thing and walk right out.
Two and a half cases, and the guys in there just can't do anything about that.
So that's the other issue, following up on David, wanted to coordinate with you, Allison, but I'd like to get the police precinct captain out again, and again, we can use it as an opportunity to coordinate with the chamber. Those are well, along the disaster preparedness was the idea of maybe try to do something in the summer, a workshop kind of thing. To
The
get
city
community
had a
involved.
plan, they came to us before COVID. And they had a plan of getting people off Magnolia. Because when the bridges go down, we're an island.
Yeah.
And in case you haven't noticed, we haven't got a hospital. And we don't have much in the way of doctors.
Hoping that disaster didn't blow by.
Yeah. But one of their plans was to send a ferry to the Discovery Park Beach to evacuate people who needed urgent help. Which was a good idea.
Yeah, but I think something like that would be important.
Well, I mean, people said, oh, you can't do that. Do that all the time in Alaska. Go to Tyonek and see the big pieces of equipment that they have driven large on the beach and given up. So, you know, you can do that. It doesn't have to be a ferry. Any boat will do.
You know,
I get so irritated when people say you can't do that. You've got that boat down at Fisherman's Terminal, the black one. That's why that boat looks so funny, because it goes to the beaches in Alaska.
well,
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah,
Are you feeling supported by members of the group in joining the safety committee? Do you have enough people? Do you want more?
well, I think the ball's in my court to actually send out the call, and I suspect people will answer. I know Brad Miller is gonna, has expressed interest, so, and I know where he lives, so. It's up the block. But yes, and Kurt's down the block. I don't know if you've been with it, and even closer. So, yeah, but it's on me, actually, you know, but Stephen out, for example, did a good job of doing that. It was a good, starting point.
So thank you for spearheading the letter. It was so gratifying to see the results actually happen so fast. We have bridge lights.
Yeah, well, and that's why I think, you know, drafting a letter regarding the bridge, waiting for them to tell us if they think it's okay. Not that we have to listen to them, but, you know, or go the other route of bringing up the issue about all the kids in the city aren't gonna be able to go swimming in the summer. I mean, it's a city issue, so one way or the other, I think we should maybe team up with people, team up with, Queen Anne for sure. They're affected.
But the idea of sending a letter to the stewards, to the Seattle, you gotta start early on that, because let's just come back, so it's too late.
Yeah. Now it's like, it's, you know, it's not just, I'll take it first, sometimes you want, and
So my other question to everybody, in relationship to safety or emergency preparedness, would that be a good topic for us to highlight during Summerfest? And just asking questions. It's nice to have, last time we did the bridge, we did the bridge again. But it's nice to have sort of a main topic that I think would appeal to the community at large.
There's the traditional rush that everybody interested in order to. Like, oh, it's the plans, they're there, but no, it's not that. So I keep getting this ongoing when there's not a disaster happening. You know, I don't know if I can do that, but we can bring it up. Everybody can say, I'm pretty much the people, it's more to happen, something, we have with our life. But it will happen. And if you don't have a disaster plan in place, so that you don't that's what you do. So I'm keeping people engaged. So far. Down the bridge.
that's why I speed up. That's what.
But also, you know, we have a lot of new residents in Magnolia. I think a lot of them don't realize that brick houses collapse in earthquakes, and that people should be looking at retrofitting, you know, so many chimneys went down the last earthquake. That, so maybe one of the things we can do is invite some, you know, companies that do that to the Summerfest and have
Literature.
literature and stuff like that.
Well, I'm just wondering if we could coordinate some kind of workshop around summer. That.
Because people, I mean, we don't notice earthquakes here, so people don't realize that you're in an earthquake zone. You live in Alaska, you know about earthquakes.
If you live in California.
Yeah, because we feel, I'm not leaving earthquakes. You know, then there's Squally Caves, people panicked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last.
Oh, I know.
But
I was teaching at Mountain Community College.
But Lester's point is a good one, you know, in the absence of something happening.
Yeah.
People kind of get it. I think the way you deal with that is there's a core group of people, the city sets up these hubs, and then.
Yeah,
I know we've got a hub, so in Magnolia, but we need to
yeah,
make sure we've got at least a couple of people that are involved, and then. Really go to people, and if they move on, then we've got to replace them, and then when the disaster happens.
Well, another thing that might be done is to have the emergency preparedness people at the booth and to go and get some photos about what has happened in our city in past earthquakes, because you know, I mean, we had buildings down Pioneer Square that were just became a pile of bricks and we have a lot of new residents who have no idea what the history is or, you know, some photos of the underside of the Magnolia Bridge after that earthquake.
And the city says the bridge will fall down on 15.
Yeah,
Which
that,
makes 15th impassable as well as.
Do we even know if there's a gathering place like the community center and people?
There's a
Yes.
line of the roads.
Yeah, I think the community center is one of the gathering, I actually went online this afternoon, and was looking at, it shows a bunch of different places.
Magnolia.
And,
Magnolia is one.
and but I couldn't figure out the map, but there's supposedly there's like a big,
Because they were.
Tool chest or something.
Radio.
yeah, Frank Gall used to come about every year and talk to us about it. And he was the man. And then, let's say he aged out. And so he ceased to participate and nobody picked up the ball behind him, but he was a ham radio guy and they had all these cells, and all this stuff's gonna happen. I mean, it was very well put together, but once he got older, then nobody picked it up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's terrible. It was so good.
Yeah, he was,
Yeah, Frank Gold
yeah.
and friends who moved was also very involved.
well, I'm gonna get together with Carol.
Yeah.
and
I may have a list of folks, because I used to be on the mailing list.
Reach out to everybody.
It was, I did bridge too. Right, that's legally, right? So we talked about earthquakes, we talked about emergency, we talked about the bridge all. It's sort of a good topic to kind of cover both things.
Yeah.
Just something like that. The other is the Magnolia Trail. That's the outdoor, we'd rather have that be the main.
Well, that could be also tied in, actually, because at one point it was considered an emergency route out, and but the problem politically, it was not handled by the city, tried to eminent domain, and not some of those houses, and some of them sued, and then they just pulled back. But the idea of maybe, you know, a road that's just like a one-lane road, you know, would be both, they both use lane, but also back up with the bridge.
Oh, another piece is,
Saw that, you know, I'll try to get more information on, all these funds, I noticed there was, you could get up to $5,000 from the city, in theory, for, funding civic engagement in your community, in your neighborhood. So I'll find out a little bit more about it, but we could find a way to get $5,000, they profitable.
well, another piece is that when we were fussing with this before, the port, we said, port, what are you gonna do? So they cooked up a plan. So they have a plan down there of what to do if the bridge goes down and they would take traffic out through the gate. You know, where there used to be a gate at the foot of the Magnolia Bridge, there was a grade level crossing. So their plan is to dump gravel in there and declare it a railroad crossing.
Yeah, and then,
So that might be something.
and then
Just
the
ask-
city had a plan of putting a boards over the railroad tracks.
Right, so,
It could drive out.
yeah, so it would come down through Thorndike, goes the port out. Of course, nobody ever knows. But again, but those might be different pieces to put in if you want a emergency planning booth, especially the piles of brick photos from prior earthquakes.
Mhm. Yeah, they have that detail.
So I'm looking at the agenda. Thank you, Bill. I think Janice is traveling, so I don't think there's anyone to give us, we talked about the bridge going to the team already. I don't know if David, you want to do anything for the next, unless Scott has some information he wants to share for land use. Should we start with you, Scott?
Yeah, I'm just still working with Dave to kind of finalize the logistics, so I'm working on a list of who is either has participated in the land use committee or who's interested, so forgive me if you're not on the list, but I have Kurt. You know, showing it was Kurt, Brad, Dave, John, Matthew, Jason. If there are any others, I'll just send it kind of finalized who wants to be involved and who wants to be CC'd. So Allison, I'll probably reach out to you too. I want to make sure who's CC'd on the agenda in the minutes, to be CC'd for council members and for their, Dan Strauss is vice chair of the land use committee, so I would like to reach out to them to make sure they're, especially in regards to the Fort Lawn, the Fort Lawn project. So I'm trying to finalize who and where. So I'll send some emails out just to confirm that the days and meeting locations. Dave said he did it the night, I think it was either the night of, say Thursday night, the night of the same meeting, or the week before. So I might hold it like on Thursday nights, and then we're gonna talk about location, what people prefer. So I'm trying to get that hammered out so we can have it next week, before next month's meeting, but the other thing is tentative agenda items. So Fort Lawton is maybe first and foremost, just because they're in a planning process. They're and specifically things that might be of concern. I met with Matt Rowley, who's the former land use chair of the Queen Anne Council, so he's been involved as a planning consultant. And one of the things is now that it's 500 units, he said that unfortunately the city's master plan is really just a development capacity plan. And so their plan, so I'm going to reach out to the project manager for the city, for the housing department, to kind of talk about what is this plan, and now that it's 500 units, is it the same for developers that are just going to get to build twice as much? No, I have. I mean, I reached out to her actually about 6 months ago, and I got something like a month back. But
Point somebody to be in charge of it.
yeah, from what I understand, it's just this plan of units, and there's no community amenities. So that rings a bell, because you don't put 1,000 people isolated in the middle of a forest or a park and not give them a community center, something, there may be 150 teenagers that are part of this population. What are they going to do? So I think there's-
Not by the original.
so I think
I'm
there's
sorry, but I've been involved in that.
no understood. And that,
2005.
look, so now it's 500 units. So I
Yeah.
just and
And it's not said how he's going to increase them.
yeah, exactly. And is that really going to be, or is it going to be 1,000 units at the
I
end?
think they're going to build it up, or they're going to make more.
Yeah, or they're going to take up the land,
The housing was in the middle,
right?
and then the rest was open space and the trees around the side, and most of it was going on.
Yeah, so now it's twice as much. Yeah, is it going to go up, or is it going to go out? And what kind of enabling is that? What's the opportunity for the people who live there to have? Is there going to be retail, coffee shop, whatever?
Those actually not probation, and you don't necessarily mind met market, but it's down the street.
Yeah.
You have a coffee shop a few blocks away, and you have senior housing less than 2 blocks away, and you do have a bus that goes through there. And I've heard all of these occupants.
But also, if you look at every other low-income community that's been redeveloped has community centers, things to do, rec centers,
Right.
and coffee shops or retail, whatever. So just want to understand the program so we can.
Yeah, that's your, yes, I forget the details. But you have the,
I've looked at like the latest, the last version, but we'll just kind of look at the 3 different
whole thing.
scenarios. Not the whole thing.
if you suffer from insomnia.
I think it's going to be kind of slow because issue there, slow releasing information about it. They're really got it locked down.
Yeah.
And then they got to do another.
Yeah,
deal.
Yeah, that's why I wanted, like, what's the process?
I'll
And
get
are they
it
gonna-
to them, did it?
are they gonna develop a community? When is that gonna happen? When is their anticipated build up? Because then I heard 2025, they're gonna start.
No, their own plan says no sooner than they would start from the very end of 26.
26.
Originally, it was 2010.
So the other is, another high issue is the One Seattle comp plan, which kind of is aligned with House Bill 1110, which is the missing middle. That would rezone all of our single family lots are now qualified for triplex, thanks to the previous mayor, but now the new plan would be fourplexes on every lot. But anything within a mile of the light rail or major station would allow a sixplex, which means that a quarter of a mile of the homes around 28th and Dravis would now be qualified and zoned for sixplexes, if that's the case, even though the light rails, so, you know, yeah. I think everybody would hate to see that become, you know, Daly City, south of San Francisco is the same density that we're proposing 6 units on a single lot. So I'd like to know,
Go down to South Seattle, you can see it.
so I'd like to know, like, is that really, are they really gonna draw on the aisle or is it gonna stop at some point or is it 6 units? So just to kind of understand what the city is thinking versus what the median is and how that's going to affect, because that may increase our population over the next 20 to 30 years by 30 or 40%. Which means more traffic and more argument for the range. So trying to just kind of prioritize these, and Dave's gonna help me, we'll line up, here's what we're gonna do when we're doing. So.
Is there a speaker that you have on your wish list about specifically the House bill, like someone from the legislature, like with Barry?
No, and that's why I've reached out to Dave, I just haven't got it. So,
Yeah, one piece is, our policy has been to favor integration of lower income housing
Yeah.
into development. And we put that in writing, but it's not publicized.
Yeah.
And then the developers, once again, steamroller, you know, for these developments with no, nothing for the people who are being displaced.
Well,
So if we could give it more publicity and more attention, I mean, I think that's commendable about our Magnolia group, and it's an unknown fact.
well, and that's an interesting component too, because this whole bill, like for the single family lots, is called missing middle. But any builder who gets a lot of Magnolia, it's not gonna be missing middle, it's gonna be $6 million, you know, skinny townhouses. Forgive me if they're losing, but that's not middle or affordable, it's gonna be super.
Increasingly, it is. middle.
Yeah, I know.
Do you remember when people said, "Oh, this is not $1 million home, Erica?" And the house next to me is for sale for 2 million or so.
And then last but not least, you know, per the bylaws, this whole, community council is supposed to serve the entire area west of 15th. And so in terms of land use specifically, I think the community of Inner Bay gets pretty much excluded because the industrial business owners of Inner Bay tend to be the ones that are included in Inner Bay planning. So I think it would be great to do some outreach to some of the homeowners, and some of the people that live closer to the boundary of Inner Bay, or even some of the people who live in the apartments, just so we can get a voice. There's so much activity is going to be happening on that side of Magnolia. Make sure there's reps.
And the storm owner now owns a lot of that Interlake property that Jeff. Yeah. And he's still around, but he's pretty much.
It sounds like it's some great support.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, we appreciate
it's going to be a fun journey. I just need to.
That's an interesting point about Energy, because the city has 94 different neighborhoods in which they divide up however they can well please. And the definitions, if you ever look at it, definitions for Magnolia are all over the place. Sometimes they include interbase.
And then there's
sometimes
Picnic.
yeah. So, I'm just, the people that live in all those apartments along Interbay, my suspicion is they're kind of unrepresented. Sometimes the city said, well, this is the Interbay neighborhood, and sometimes it gets pushed into Queen Anne. It's kind of I don't know what the way to deal with that is, but,
I think the chamber has been reaching out to the Innovate and Fisherman's Terminal folks. But I don't know how successful that's been.
Okay, we're getting close to 9 o'clock. I think that we will move transportation and transit to next month. Amy is going to send out an email about communications to you all. She was ill tonight, so she couldn't come. And then David, I'll follow you on the map. We can catch up next month.
Sure. So two things on the NAC. One is that the NAC under the agreement between the parties has to do a study of traffic. And they have to do that annually and they report back to the NAC, which is began in Magnolia, so let's report. And they just did their study and the traffic is essentially, at least my interpretation of it all, is the traffic's fine. There are specific levels of traffic which are considered too high, which are somewhat arbitrary, but in general, the feedback was that the traffic levels were fine, which isn't terribly surprising given the pandemic. On the other hand, we had probably the most cruise traffic, I think, this past year as has ever been the case. So it's good that it's under control, at least I would say right now. The only other thing would be that there is a moderator who is sort of a mediator, if you will, originally between Queen Anne and Magnolia Park and Port. That gentleman is leaving and they're hiring another one. The Port actually hires the person, but I don't think it's actually a paid position, but they retain them and the communities agreed to it. So I don't see that.
It is, an attempt to, mediate.
Yeah.
Right, it's a third party. Right.
Yeah.
Can you all hear David?
Did you, oh, I'm sorry, I was,
Just making
I
sure.
wasn't aware.
On Zoom, can you hear David Kaplan? How's that, Kaplan?
Thanks for checking.
Okay, so I had 15 minutes or 10 minutes scheduled for new business goals and speakers for 2024. What I did was I typed up our interactive goal setting exercise that we did. Thank you for doing that last month with me. So I can just send that to you as a PDF. I tallied the votes on what we all agreed on and what we thought was important and what we were less focused on. So if you all don't mind, I can just send that out by email and we can follow up together. And if you see something that we didn't, like Scott, you weren't at the meeting, so if you see something you want to add to it, happy to add to it.
Everybody can hear me?
Yeah.
So. So Kurt Nielsen did make comments in the chat. Sure. Before we adjourn, it's just regarding the emergency line. Being on healthcare facilities, and probably I guess in the Pacific. Another medical crime, transformers at the side there, and Michael is trying to do bridge infrastructure is essential to the doctors can get to the hospital. The big one has a guy who can usually have doctors.
After 3 days, the city will attend helicopter. That's what they told us at district council, we did that, and we said, we didn't know you had a helicopter, but we don't. So after 3 days, when all the helicopters will be spoken, you're going to go out and rent a helicopter.
Are you gonna do the like? You are.
We all have left there. Give us all phone number.
I'll do that.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So. Second.
We're officially adjourning. Jessica, do you have what you need? I saved the chat and I will send it to you by email. Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.